Clemson's Avieon Terrell has NFL pedigree, first-round potential, and he is their best cornerback on the team. He looks to help power them to a national championship.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst with Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He is a director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot for being our everydayers, guys. We're talking about more cornerbacks for the 2025 college football season, for the 2026 NFL Draft. AJ Terrell, the star corner for the Atlanta Falcons, his younger brother Avion Terrell with those Clemson Tigers. Could he be a first-round pick in 2026? Malik Muhammad out of Texas is a name that we have to talk about that you must know. And Mansoor Delane transferred from Virginia Tech to now LSU. What can he bring to the Tigers defense? But before we get into all of that, guys, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Avieon Terrell, 5'11", 180 pounds. This is a talented corner. Guys, like he has the NFL pedigree, like it says, older brother AJ Terrell is the starting corner for the Atlanta Falcons. Last year for Clemson's defense, he was targeted 68 times. He only allowed 35 receptions, 2 interceptions on the season, but also added in 10 pass breakups. So this is a guy that gets his hand on the football. And when you watch watching that South Carolina game was interesting because they allowed him to match up with the big 6'5", 230-pound Nick Harbor that we've talked about on this show, the freak athlete, the explosive track athlete that's also a wide receiver that's developing over for the Gamecocks. And there was a play where I think Noah Sellers put it up there expecting his big 6'5" receiver to go ahead and make the play, Keith, and yeah, Avion said, not so fast. And he was able to go up and not just make the play, but he knocked the ball. He parted kind of the Red Sea, split the hands, batted the ball out of his hands, played through the pocket at the catch point. Not so much it's a slant. He gets around him. No, they're high pointing this ball together, and he's giving up, probably 30, 40 pounds, 25 pounds at the least, and he's 6'5", he's 5'11". Yeah, he's giving up a lot of inches in height too, and arm length and athleticism. He's giving up a lot, and the ability to battle and compete at the catch point. I love his athleticism, his agility, quick feet, fluid hips, and I said it at the end, teasing for this show, Keith, on yesterday. Talking to one of my guys who's a scout, we was talking about this. Probably it was shortly after the draft, and we were texting about some of these corners, and we talked about, Avieon Terrell, and the name he brought up was Jair Alexander. And because he was like, he reminds me he's one of the better cornerbacks that's been in the league for some time. And I thought, who has a similar body type. First thing came to my mind was Denzel Ward, because Denzel Ward's another thin, 5'11", athletic, technically sound corner that plays with that grit and toughness that's bigger than his size. But when he went to Jair, I said, okay, I can see that. Jair was similar build, if I remember correctly, come out of Louisville, athletic, quick twitch, agile, all those things, man. I look at this young man, and I think this is a guy that he needs this year. I don't think he goes back for a senior year unless the floor bottoms out on him. I think he either plays the same or even elevates his game. If Clemson makes a run in the playoffs, he's going to put a lot of eyes on him next season for the NFL draft, Keith.
Nah, DP. A lot of the sentiments that you have, I echo them, right? And getting into Avion, so you brought up the comps, a couple of them that I really like. The one that came to me was our guy Trent McDuffie, right? I kind of thought of Trent too, because he just body frame wise, he may be a guy you want to kick inside. But the most impressive thing about Avieon Terrell is the instincts. And you highlighted everything with the ball skills, but the fumbles, the forced fumbles, his ability to rip the ball from defenders, like that's playmaking stuff. That's game-changing stuff, right? That's the things that I'm not comparing him to him, but that's the things that got Tyrann Mathieu to be one of the best college football defenders ever, right? Like making plays, just stripping the ball out, however you can get the turnover. I like his quick feet. I like the fact that he's competitive at the catch point. I like the fact that he appears to be scrappy. He steps up and run defense. It doesn't matter if you want to put him at nickel, if you want to put him as the boundary, like you can ask him to be and run support in some aspects. So I think there's a lot there. And you see the fluid hips. I think he may come out not as big as his brother, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But there's definitely a lot there to say, you know what, this is a guy who has the upside to be a CB1, and I'm talking about in this 2026 NFL draft class. That was our last episode. I will go ahead and throw him in that bucket of the rest of the corners too. Nah, this is a wide open race. And he has his name in the hat to be CB1.
100%. And I think technically, if you talk about his brother, I think he's more technically refined than AJ was coming out. AJ was a little sloppy with his technique. He was a bigger corner, good athlete, things of that nature, similar instincts. Both of these guys read it well, they see it well, they play it well. But just from a technical standpoint, Avion, I felt like that since he was a freshman. I remember watching him, and I can't remember what game it was during his freshman year, but I remember that I think they threw a out route in his direction, and I think he was playing off, and he triggered to the sideline and made a big hit on the receiver. And again, he's like 5'11", listed at 180. Some people might think he's 175, 170, right? Because he's a leaner, thinner corner, but he does not mind putting his shoulder into a receiver or even the ball carrier, right? And he separated the ball from the receiver, created a PBU, an incompletion. And I was like, yeah, Clemson might have, like, one thing Dabo Swinney is good at. He is great at recruiting defenders. This defense for Clemson is star-studded with day 1 and day 2 NFL draft talent. From D-line, linebacker, safety, and corner.
Yeah, I don't know if you feel the same way, but even making mock drafts, I don't even think his name is consistently in mock drafts across the landscape yet. So you add him along with Peter Woods and TJ Parker and Cade Klubnik and the rest of these guys. You're talking about Clemson, like, could it be 5, 6 first rounders, right? In this class, and it's possible.
100%. And I think for him, like you said, the ability he has the game, the size, the athleticism, and movement skills to play either nickel or boundary corner. And like you said, with the instincts to be able to read everything, he processes information so well and so quick. He is a little bit over aggressive. So, in the NFL, they'll try to throw double moves at you if you're playing off coverage, things like that. I want to see him kind of temper. But what's the old phrase, Keith? I'd rather have to, like, tell my dog to whoa and just kind of calm down than have to tell him to sick him.
Yep.
If a guy doesn't have the instincts to be aggressive and go get the ball, I can't really coach that into you. You know what I mean? Like, to have that dog in you and that aggression to be able to be a playmaker. I think that's it takes to be a playmaker. It takes being a risk taker. You're going to have to take some risk to make plays on the football, and whether that's attacking at the catch point or triggering downhill on the quick hitch route and taking it for 6, you might get beat sometimes. Like, it just happens, right? You don't want to be Marcus Peters, where it's like you're very like feast or famine in the situation, but finding that control in the middle to where I might give up a catch, but it's not going to be 60 yards. Yeah. But if you sleep on it, I'm taking this back 60 yards. That's the type of guy Avieon Terrell is in coverage, while also being very sticky and in the hip pocket. He's a very annoying corner for receivers, and that's what you love to be, truthfully, as a corner. As a coverage guy, you want to be annoying more than anything.
Yep, I agree 100% with DP. Let's take this thing to Texas, man. Another team that can be in national championship contention with our guy Arch Manning playing quarterback there. But we're going to talk about defensive back, cornerback, Malik Muhammad. If the last name sounds familiar, this is the relative of Jabbar Muhammad, who was the star corner out of Oregon last year. DP, let's get into Malik Muhammad coming up next.
Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the bright lights, golf on the green, or even high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling and worth your while? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. You let them deal with the sun and you go have yourself some fun. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet, and you don't really want to miss out on deals like that. It's easy to use and fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Are you new to FanDuel? New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So, open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. 6 foot, 180-pound cornerback for the Texas Longhorns, Malik Muhammad. This is a guy that had a pretty good season last year. Pretty impressive season last year for the Longhorns. 60 targets. He allowed 30 receptions on the season total. In terms of yards allowed, he was around 400 yards. They play a mixed bag of coverages and Texas, everything. Yeah, Texas. He only allowed 1 touchdown all season, and that was like the bowl game against, I think, Arizona State. So he went like almost like 18 weeks of games without giving up a touchdown. He had 9 PBUs last year. This is a guy that same way we talk about with Avion, coverage instincts, route recognition, processing, trigger downhill as a tackler. Another guy that plays bigger than his size. He's a really good run support corner, Keith. And I know, for me, man, I like my corners to be able to tackle, especially with the quick game and stuff like that. He'll blow a receiver up. He'll blow that quick screen up. He'll attack it with aggression. He'll break down with good mechanics and technique to make sure he's not out of control. How many times we see corners just fly like a bat out of hell and then miss the tackle, and then, we're 40 yards down the field because you were the only guy out there one-on-one. Like, he's a really good technical tackler as well. Keith, he to me, when I look at Malik, I see a off coverage zone corner when I watch him. I think this is a guy that has good eyes in zone. He reads everything well. He only has 1 interception throughout his career, and it's not for not being targeted. He doesn't locate the ball down the field. He face guards a lot in man coverage. If he can start turning and finding the ball a little bit more, he's in position a lot of times on those plays. And in the NFL, one thing we know, those wide receivers are savvy. You face guarding down the field, they're going to do something to try and get the refs to throw a flag and get that spot foul. And if it's 50 yards down the field, now you just gave up a 50-yard play, essentially. I think if he can fix in because, again, it's not like he's panicking. Like, he's running stride for stride with guys. He's in the hip pocket. He's in phase. He just doesn't turn and look for the ball. And if he can start doing that more often, he'll put himself in position to start making more plays on the football.
Yeah, I agree. And it's weird that the phase guarding part, because usually as a corner, you have a zone turn and you have a man turn, right? And usually if you're playing as much zone as they play at Texas, look like they do a lot of, it can be cover 2 inverted things. It can be cover 3. It can be quarter, half. They do a lot of things coverage wise. They always look like 5 to 7 yards off the football, just a lot of different things. But you would think if everything's in front of him and then having his vision, right, to read that triangle of himself, the wide receiver and the quarterback, that he would be in position to have more interceptions. And so we'll see. I think you kind of took the angle of highlighting his athletic traits. I'm going to present this, though, because when I watched him, what I think is going to be interesting to pay attention to is, will he get the Jahdae Barron treatment? Will they say that he's the best defensive back on the field and then kind of put him in? Because I think Jahdae kind of played that starish type of role where he played nickel, safety, linebacker. Yeah, he played a little bit of everything, which made the evaluation a little bit confusing, right? That's a pure defensive back. But I wonder if they say, like, and some teams just have that, right? Like you sometimes it was the Alabama teams of the, the mid 2010s and previous to that, where that veteran senior defensive back kind of gets that that next step of, hey, play a hybrid role at the end of the day and do a lot of different things. So I think that's going to be interesting to pay attention to. But I will say his play and what he did on one side of the football, like you said, not giving up any touchdowns, it also allowed for Jade to not have to worry about playing corner, right? And do a lot of different things overall.
Yeah, 100%. I think that would be a very interesting decision for him, because I think with his ability, again, the run defense is there, the strength he's a strong dude. You know what I mean? Even it's crazy because even though he's listed at 178, 180, he plays stronger than that. So it's like, okay, could we walk you down in the nickel and you still be a plus run defender? Yes, like he's that type of guy that doesn't mind doing that. So I think he could be that star, that chess piece defensive back for Texas that kind of follows suit for like a Jade Barron. But I'm looking forward to, because I want to see, like you said, they run a lot of different zone coverages. They run a ton of them, and I'm just like, man, like, you know. And don't get me wrong, like in today's NFL, you got to be like, it's like zone first, man second, and still be able to do both. But like, I want to see how he handles more man coverage, especially in the SEC against those receivers that he's going to face. This year.
I want to see it from a hip fluidity standpoint, right?
Yeah.
There were a couple of times at the top of the route, and I'm talking about if they're running digs, in breakers, things like that. I thought that he kind of got handsy and a little bit off balance. Yeah, it looked like it was like right on that threshold of like, should I be concerned or not, right? But then there's not enough reps to be able to tell. So I think that's where you were going. And I agree with you on that it's like I need to see a little bit more to make sure that I feel like he can play man, right? Because if you're talking, now we get into the zone corner conversation of, okay, you're what? I think 6 foot, listed as 6 foot, 190 pounds. Usually the strictly zone corners, and I mean, you think about like the Sauce Gardners, and I think he just got he's slated to get a big payday. If didn't get the big payday, I think he just did. Usually those guys are the 6'2" right? Like if you come in at 5'11" and 3/4 at strictly a zone corner, that can muddy some things up for your evaluation. And usually those guys don't go as high as the pure man-to-man guys who are around that 6 footage range.
Yeah, because typically if you're around 6 foot 5'11", you're pure man-to-man. That means number one, you're a really good athlete. Number two, you have really good movement skills and hip fluidity. And that's what, like, and I think because I watched them back to back. I started with Avion and I went to Malik, since that's how we have it segmented for the show. And I was like, oh, it's a clear, distinct difference in terms of hip fluidity between these two dudes. Because there was a rep, I can't remember which game I was watching, but he was actually in, I think it was in off coverage. They attack his hips. And that was kind of the concerning part, is he's not a 6'3" corner where you like, okay, he's tall and long legged and like stuff like that, where you think the hip tightness or stiffness would be there, but should be there, right? The right way to put it, should be there. But the receiver attacked him like vertically, explode off the ball, get a free release, and when he opened his hips, like he forced him to turn and get ready to turn and run vertically. And when it was like a 7 stop, and when he worked back down the stem, you saw like that like, I guess that hesitation in terms of like, I don't know if he couldn't come to a complete stop on the dime. And then he ended up giving up the catch. He made the tackle, right? Didn't give yards after the catch, but still he ended up it was like 2 or 3 yards of separation. And you mess around in the NFL, depending on who you're covering, that 2 or 3 yards could turn into a 20 yards after the catch type of gain with a Justin Jefferson, a Tyreek Hill, a Jamar Chase, like those explosive receivers. You have to be wary of that. So I think that's probably that's why I want to see him in man, to see, is he a guy that has to dictate the terms in the contact window, be physical, be handsy, reroute guys? Can he play all like soft press where he doesn't have to immediately get hands on and be comfortable staying in phase? Or is this a guy that's going to have some hip tightness and different things like that? He reminded me, I think, technically, and again, this is all depending on if he's technically sound enough in man. I remember Greg Newsome coming out of Northwestern, and he was such a technical guy. He wasn't the elite athlete that we saw like with Denzel Ward, but the technical ability, he was arguably the most technically sound corner, because he was in the same class as like J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain II and those guys. Like, because he wasn't that upper echelon athlete. The vision, the patience, the punch timing, the footwork, all of it was just top tier with Greg Newsome. If he can kind of get close to that, you can allow him to play more man. But right now, heading into the season, I view him as more of a zone corner, which again, similar to the slot stuff, as like a receiver, it's not a kiss of death. Now you need to be able to play zone, but I want to see the movement skills in man because it left me a little worried with him.
Yep, I agree with DP. Let's wrap this thing up, man. In Bayou Country, my neck of the woods, Mr. Mansoor Delane. Mansoor is a Virginia Tech transfer. So this offseason, he went from Virginia Tech to LSU. We're going to break down Mansoor Delane, LSU defensive back, coming up next.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot for being our everydayer. 6 foot, 191 pounds. Won't turn 22 until this December 15. Mansoor Delane transferring from Virginia Tech to LSU. Last year, 72 targets, allowed 34 receptions on the season. He also had 4 interceptions and 4 pass breakups. Unfortunately, he did end up per PFF. He did allow 7 touchdowns in coverage, but Keith, it's similar to what we talked about with Avieon Terrell. I like Mansoor's movement ability. I like his movement skills. I like his twitchiness, the footwork. He's a quick-footed athlete. This is a guy that, to me, can play that man coverage role and mirror and match receivers at the line of scrimmage. He sinks his hips and he drives downhill well, strong tackler and everything, and in run support and whatnot. I remember I was watching the practice rep, actually, some practice stuff that was tweeted out as well after watching film. I wanted to see what LSU put anything out on him. And there was a practice rep where, you know, they were at practice, had him mic'd up, stuff like that. And watching him just kind of like, again, playing the run as a corner is a business decision. You got to be cut from that cloth, and he could tell he's cut from the cloth. Like, he does not mind. I think I'm pretty sure 20, unless they change numbers, pretty sure number 28 is the big running back. Caleb Jackson?
Caleb Jackson.
Yeah, and he had this was a live rep, guys. Like, this isn't like 2-hand touch. Don't bring it. No, this is a live rep. Tackle your teammate. And Caleb is a big dude. If you don't know what he's capable of, please go search it on Twitter from his freshman year, and where he sent some poor defensive back into the shadow realm.
It was against Mississippi State.
Mississippi State, yes. And that was very Leonard Fournette-esque.
The one against Ole Miss, yep.
Yes, very Leonard Fournette-esque. And even I think Leonard Fournette did it with the Jags one year where he called on the defender and then ran him over on the sideline. I was like, this is...
During the plays, he was like, come on, let's bring it.
Yeah, like this is a different, that's how I knew Leonard Fournette was a psychopath, because he telling the defender come full speed just so I can embarrass you on live television. It takes a different type of mentality, but he tackled him in space. He tackled him one-on-one, and it reminded me also, like, because I remember Jahdae Barron, when they played Arizona State, did the same thing to Cam Scadaboo. He comes off from his cornerback spot, square, he's patient, wide base, and, Cam Scadaboo's a power runner. So I thought, I was like, man, Jahdae, you might be in for a long rep. And he tackled him fine, brought him to the ground, secure tackle. That's the same thing Mansoor did. And I think this is a guy, Keith, that for me, he's listed at 6 foot 191. And could he end up being 195, 200 pounds? Possibly. But I think this is a guy whose stock could be on the rise in this LSU defense. I think his was it Harold Perkins back? You know what I mean? To play that linebacker edge rusher role on third downs, improving the pass rush, healthy this year. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Mansoor Delane, because I think he could end up being one of those guys we talk about being a second-round pick who elevated his game yet again, and now in the SEC. Again, you're going to see a lot of talented athletes, and I think he's a caliber athlete. I can't remember what game it was last year. They tried to run like an out and up against him. Mm-hmm. And he wiped it out. Like his hip fluidity was so good, and the footwork to stay in phase. I like what I've seen from him.
Yeah, I'm in and I'm gonna walk through the whole process, right? I'm in a interesting spot with Mansoor, because how I view him is I see the twitchiness and the quickness, But I do think there is a little bit of hip tightness to where he's a straight line speed guy, right? I see him doing both, and kind of like how we talked about with Malik Muhammad more than Avieon Terrell. But I want to go to the tackling part because this is where I kind of want to land with him too. I think because he is physical, and I was at LSU with this guy who he kind of reminded me of was Jay Ward. And Jay kind of had some of that part to him too, where Jay was a good corner on the outside, right? Like plenty of instincts. But just a little bit of tightness, and then you felt like, wait, if I kick him over to like free safety or something like that and let him play in the middle of the field, almost similar to what we just talked about with Jade Barron too, and let him do a bunch of different things because he is like, I agree with you, like Mansoor is he's gonna get in the mix, right? And so you feel like you have a +1 almost on the coverage side, right? Because if I'm able to put him on a tight end or something like that, like definitely the tight end is not running from him, right? And then now
facts.
He has the overall size and length to even compete with some of those tight ends that are 6'4", 6'5". He still can get up there and compete at the catch point. So with Mansoor, I'm more in the bucket of I think this is going to be a fun guy to evaluate because I think it's going to be about placement. And just as we go through this process, I think it's going to be interesting to see what he does because LSU has historically been also on top of that, a man-to-man team, right? So are we going to get a lot of those man-to-man reps and then him being competitive as far as LSU bringing some young guys out there like I think the freshman phenom DJ Pickett, right? And DJ Pickett is another 6'2" to 6'3" type of corner. And then I can't remember they have a couple corners on the other side too. So this is going to be fun because I wonder where they're going to place him and then just him coming in and competing right away.
Yeah, that I was looking at their cornerback room now because there was a tweet I saw. It was like LSU's bringing back DBU again because Delane was like the number 2 ranked transfer portal corner. Pickett is like the 5-star number 1 corner in the country. Like they were like their DB room and like cause remember last year there was like man like Nussmeier, like Kyron Lacey, rest in peace, and like all the weapons they had. And it was like just the defense didn't help them much. You know what I mean? Same thing with what was it? Jaden Daniels was
Daniels here for sure.
Like that was like, bro, like what do we? You know what I mean? Like Jaden could have went to the SEC championship game, the CFP, and I would have loved to see them out there cooking in the big pressurized moments. But the defense just wasn't up to par. And it's like this year, if the LSU defense comes to play with Nick Anderson, Barry and Brown, I think his last name maybe Anthony, the short number. I think it's number 1 who was there last year. I think he's like a twitchy like slot receiver.
Aaron Anderson.
Aaron Anderson. Aaron Anderson there at wide receiver with the guys I just named bringing in through the portal. With Nussmeier and everything. The 2 running backs in the backfield. Long as the offensive line finds now, granted, like we talked about, they have a really tough opening game. You know what I mean? Like the
Clemson
changes on the offensive line to get Peter Woods and TJ Parker and that defensive line out the gate is tough. But if they're able to block for Nuss and then that defense plays complementary football, like we look at Bama and like, oh, maybe Bama's making the comeback and Georgia coming off a down year. Like LSU could be the team to watch in the SEC this year to make not just the SEC championship game, but the CFP. And I'm looking forward to that because we both really like, Garrett Nussmeier as a NFL draft prospect, and he's in like I tweeted it out, like, who's everybody's top 3 quarterbacks, and every single quote, tweet, comment I got, Nussmeier was in it. So everybody's rocking with Nuss, man. I think that defense able to play complementary football. Mansoor Delane is going to be a big part of that. That secondary is going to be a big part of that, and you're going to be in some big time moments. So I think that's one of the big things of just a transfer, going from Virginia Tech to now the SEC, you're going to big spotlights, right? You're going into primetime games, like, so was it CBS, 8 o'clock, 3:30 games where everybody's at home watching. Can you lock down or play and slow down a Ryan Williams, right? Who's a freak of nature, 18 years old? You know what I mean? Like, can you stop him and him and which is the guy I want us to talk about? I think it's Jeremy Bernard, the other receiver over there. Yep. I got some good feedback on how the league kind of looks at him, and they're excited for his potential coming into this season with the new change of quarterback and all that stuff, and him getting more targets and that offense passing the ball and taking another step, man. Mansoor Delane, I'm looking forward to seeing them, Keith, because I think unlike like Malik Muhammad, a lot of zone, I think Mansoor, similar to Avieon Terrell, this is a guy's going to be able to play man coverage and play man coverage at a high enough level to really we looking at him as a potential, like I said, top of the second round. Where he tests and measure in at is going to be play a lot. Going to play a lot into where he gets drafted.
Yep, 100% with DP. That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listener is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available, guys. They say that linebackers don't matter until you don't have one. And I'm going to tell you right now, guys, that this class has some pretty interesting linebackers that we have to talk about. So on tomorrow's show, we're going to get into Anthony Hill from Texas, Deontay Lawson from Alabama. Yeah, we're going to talk about those guys and why you need to have them marked down on your list as linebackers to probably help improve your defense in the 2026 NFL Draft. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.